The judgment and exodus, the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, stretched before Commander Elena Vasquez like a cathedral of judgment. Towering pillars of pure energy supported a dome that showed the swirling galaxies beyond. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated sections, their alien forms casting strange shadows in the ethereal light. Elena stood at the center of the chamber, alongside Ambassador Marcus Chun, humanity's most experienced diplomat. Both wore their finest ceremonial uniforms, but Elena knew that no amount of pageantry would change what was about to happen. The humans had been summoned here not for honor, but for trial. High Arbiter Zixthara floated above them all, her crystalline form catching and refracting the chamber's light into dancing rainbows. When she spoke, her voice resonated through the crystal formations that made up her body, creating harmonics that filled the vast space. "Humans of the species Terra," she began, her words carrying the weight of galactic law. "You stand accused before this council of actions that threaten the stability of our peaceful confederation." Elena felt her jaw tighten. Peaceful confederation. The words rang hollow when she thought of the countless worlds that had suffered under the council's rigid control, their cultures slowly disappearing under layers of bureaucratic conformity. Ambassador Chun stepped forward, his voice calm despite the gravity of the moment. "High Arbiter, we come before you today not as the accused, but as partners who have served this council faithfully for over a century. We have contributed to galactic peace, science, and prosperity." A ripple of disapproval flowed through the chamber. The Velthari representative, a being that resembled a massive jellyfish with dozens of tentacles, pulsed with agitated colors. "The humans speak of peace while building the largest military fleet in the Outer Rim," it declared, its voice a wet whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the chamber. "That fleet has protected trade routes from pirates and hostile forces." Elena interjected, unable to contain herself. "We have never used it for conquest or aggression." The High Arbiter's crystalline form darkened slightly. "Commander Vasquez, you will speak only when addressed directly." She turned her attention to a holographic display that materialized in the center of the chamber. "Let us examine the evidence." The display showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy, with human territories marked in blue. Red markers indicated what the Council called incidents, moments where human forces had acted without explicit Council approval. "The Kepler mining incident," announced the Arbiter. "Human forces attacked and destroyed a legitimate salvage operation." "Those were slavers," Elena said through gritted teeth. "They had captured over 3,000 civilians from 6 different worlds." "The Council had assigned a diplomatic team to handle the situation," replied the Velthari representative. "Your interference resulted in the destruction of valuable resources and the loss of potential intelligence." Elena stared at the alien in disbelief. They were more concerned about resources than the lives of 3,000 innocent people. Display shifted to show another incident. "The Titan Station affair," the Arbiter continued. "Human engineers modified a space station without Council approval, potentially disrupting local gravitational fields." Ambassador Chun spoke up. "We prevented a catastrophic collapse that would have killed everyone aboard. The station's fusion core was about to breach. The Council's engineering corps could have handled the situation through proper channels," stated a tall, insectoid being from the Kree delegation. "Your hasty actions showed dangerous disregard for established protocols. For the next 3 hours, the Council presented case after case. Each time, the humans had acted to save lives, prevent disasters, or protect the innocent. And each time, the Council focused on the rules that had been broken, the procedures that had been bypassed, the proper channels that had been ignored." Elena watched the faces of the Council members. She saw fear there, but not fear of human aggression. They were afraid of human independence, of humanity's refusal to let bureaucracy stand in the way of doing what was right. Finally, the High Arbiter called for closing statements. Ambassador Chun spoke with eloquence about humanity's contributions to galactic civilization. He listed the technologies they had shared, the worlds they had helped terraform, the scientific breakthroughs they had achieved in cooperation with other species. But Elena could see it was useless. The decision had been made before they ever entered the chamber. "The Council has reached its verdict," announced the High Arbiter. "The human species has repeatedly demonstrated an inability to function within the framework of galactic law. Your actions, while perhaps well-intentioned, show a dangerous disregard for the order that has maintained peace for over 5,000 years." The chamber fell silent, except for the soft humming of the energy pillars. By unanimous decision of the Galactic Council, humanity is hereby expelled from all Council territories and stripped of all privileges and protections. You have 60 standard days to evacuate all human presence from Council space, Elena felt. The words hit her like a physical blow. Expelled. After everything humanity had done, after all the lives saved and worlds protected, they were being cast out like criminals. "This is not justice," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "This is fear." The High Arbiter's form flashed with angry light. "The decision is final. Any human presence remaining in Council space after the deadline will be considered an act of aggression and dealt with accordingly." As the massive doors of the chamber sealed behind them, Elena and Marcus walked in stunned silence. In the corridor outside, they found Captain Rosa Martinez waiting with a contingent of human officials. "I monitored the proceedings," Rosa said quietly. "The evacuation fleets are already being prepared. We'll need every ship we have." Elena looked at her old friend. Rosa had commanded human forces for over 20 years, fighting pirates and protecting trade routes. Now she would oversee the largest evacuation in galactic history. "How many people?" Elena asked. 47 million humans across Council space," Rosa replied. 238 colonies, research stations, and trading outposts, plus all the mixed settlements where humans have intermarried with other species. 60 days, Marcus said, shaking his head. 60 days to abandon everything we've built." The evacuation began immediately. Massive transport ships, hastily converted, cargo vessels, and even repurposed military craft were pressed into service. The scenes at human colonies across the galaxy were heartbreaking. Families packed what they could carry, leaving behind homes they had built with their own hands, businesses they had spent decades developing, and friends from other species who wept to see them go. On New Terra, the largest human agricultural colony, Elena watched as farmers destroyed their own crops rather than leave them for the Council to claim. "If we can't have it, nobody can," said Farmer David Kim, tears streaming down his face as he watched his life's work burn. The evacuation was a logistical nightmare. Ships designed to carry cargo were retrofitted with life support systems. Families were separated as they were assigned to different vessels. Children cried as they were forced to leave behind pets that couldn't be accommodated on the crowded ships. But something remarkable happened during those 60 days. Despite the chaos, despite the heartbreak, humans began to organize. They shared resources, volunteered for dangerous evacuation missions, and worked around the clock to ensure that no one was left behind. Elena found herself coordinating with Captain Martinez and a hastily assembled evacuation committee. They worked from a converted cargo ship that served as mobile headquarters, jumping from system to system as they supervised the exodus. "Where are we going?" asked Dr. Sarah Kim, a terraforming specialist who had volunteered to help with the evacuation. "The Council controls most of the habitable systems in this part of the galaxy. We head for the frontier sectors," Elena replied, studying star charts spread across the command table. The regions beyond Council space. They're dangerous and largely unexplored, but they're free. Free and possibly uninhabitable, Marcus pointed out. We could be leading our people to their deaths. Elena looked at him steadily. We could be. But we could also be leading them to something better. The Council sees our independence as a threat. Maybe it's time to prove them right. As the deadline approached, the last human ships prepared to leave Council space. The evacuation had been completed with remarkable efficiency. Not a single human life had been lost, and they had managed to salvage far more equipment and supplies than anyone had thought possible. Elena stood on the bridge of the evacuation fleet's flagship, watching the last human outpost disappear behind them. Around her, 237 ships of various sizes and configurations carried humanity into the unknown. Admiral called the communications officer. We're receiving transmissions from the other fleets. All evacuation groups have successfully departed Council space. Elena nodded. In the past month, Captain Martinez had been promoted to Admiral in recognition of her exceptional leadership during the evacuation. Elena herself had been given the rank of Fleet Commander, making her the highest-ranking human military officer. In the Exodus, set course for the Andromeda frontier, Elena commanded. Its asterisk. The rise of the new empire. 2 years after the Exodus, Admiral Sarah Thompson stood on the observation deck of humanity's new flagship, the Resilience. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the bustling activity of humanity's first major colony beyond Council space. New Horizon. The planet was a testament to human ingenuity. What had been a barely habitable world with a toxic atmosphere was now home to over 3 million humans. Massive atmospheric processors, designed by Dr. James Park's terraforming team, pumped clean air while orbital platforms provided power and resources. The atmospheric conversion is ahead of schedule, Dr. Park reported, joining Sarah at the observation window. We'll have breathable air at sea level within 6 months. Sarah nodded, but her attention was focused on the ships moving between the planet and the orbital facilities. Human vessels worked alongside craft of alien design, their crews cooperating with species that had never been part of the Galactic Council's perfect order. Any word from General Rodriguez? Sarah asked. He's completed the survey of the Vega system, Dr. Park replied. Found 3 more worlds suitable for terraforming, plus asteroid fields rich in rare minerals. But more importantly, he made contact with another refugee species. This was the pattern that had emerged over the past 2 years. As humanity pushed into the frontier sectors, they had encountered other species that had been cast out by the Galactic Council. Each time, instead of competition or conflict, they had found cooperation. The first contact had been with the Kayanash, a reptilian species that had been expelled from Council space 50 years earlier for aggressive territorial expansion. In reality, they had simply refused to accept the Council's arbitrary limits on their population growth. Kayanash, the species leader who shared the name of his people, had been suspicious when the human fleet first arrived in what they considered their territory. But when Admiral Thompson had explained humanity's situation, the tall, scaled alien had laughed, a sound like gravel in a drum. The Council fears strength, he had said in his heavily accented English. They expelled us because we would not accept their breeding restrictions. They expelled you because you would not accept their moral restrictions. Perhaps we should work together. That alliance had been the foundation of what was now called the Federation of Free Worlds. The Kayanash provided military expertise and knowledge of the frontier sectors. Humans contributed advanced technology and organizational skills. Together, they had built something neither could have achieved alone. Sarah walked through the corridors of the Resilience, noting the mixed crews that had become common throughout the human fleet. Human engineers worked alongside Kalyanash technicians, while human doctors trained with Zephyrian healers, a species of energy beings that had been cast out for their dangerous experiments with consciousness transfer. In the ship's conference room, she found President Maria Santos reviewing reports from across the growing Federation. Maria had been elected as the first president of the Human Federation in exile, but her role had evolved as more species joined their alliance. The Thorian Mining Consortium has agreed to join the Federation, Maria reported. That gives us access to their advanced drilling technology and their expertise in asteroid mining. The Thorians were a species of silicon-based life forms that had been expelled from Council space for environmental destruction. The Council had been outraged by their practice of completely mining out asteroids, failing to understand that the Thorians actually needed the minerals to reproduce. "What about the Zenith?" Sarah asked. Maria's expression grew more serious. "They're still deciding." Their experience with the Council was particularly traumatic. The Zenith were perhaps the most tragic case they had encountered. A species of pure energy beings, they had been nearly driven to extinction by the Council's attempts to regulate their reproduction. The Council had feared that unlimited Zenith reproduction could lead to dangerous energy imbalances in space. "Give them time," Sarah said. "They'll come around when they see what we're building here." And they were building something remarkable. A federation of free worlds had grown to encompass 12 different species across 43 star systems. They had established trade routes, shared technologies, and created a form of government that respected the autonomy of each species. While providing mutual protection and cooperation, Dr. Park had been instrumental in much of this success. His terraforming techniques, enhanced by Kalyanash geological expertise and Thorian mining methods, had made it possible to establish colonies on worlds that the Council would have deemed uninhabitable. His team had also developed new technologies. By combining human innovation with alien knowledge, diffusion crystal hybrid reactors are producing energy at 340% of projected capacity, he reported during the weekly Federation Council meeting. And the Zephyrian consciousness transfer technology has revolutionized our computer systems. General Alex Rodriguez, who commanded the Federation's ground forces, had equally impressive reports. The joint training exercises with Kalyanash warriors have produced the most effective military units in known space. Our combined tactics incorporate the best of both species' approaches to warfare. But perhaps the most significant development was in the area of exploration. Captain Lisa Chun, Elena's former aide, who had been promoted to head the exploration division, had been pushing deeper into the frontier sectors, discovering new worlds and making contact with additional refugee species. "We found evidence of at least 6 more species in the outer rim," she reported. "All of them appear to be refugees from Council space, expelled for various reasons over the past century." Sarah felt a growing sense of anticipation. Each new species they contacted brought new technologies, new perspectives, and new strengths. To the Federation, they were building something that had never existed before, a truly cooperative galactic civilization. Meanwhile, intelligence reports from their few remaining contacts in Council space painted a disturbing picture. The Galactic Council was struggling with internal conflicts. Without human protection, several trade routes had been devastated by pirates. Without human medical expertise, a plague had spread through 3 Council systems. Without human diplomatic intervention, 2 member species had gone to war over territorial disputes. "They're starting to realize what they've lost," President Santos observed during a private meeting with Sarah. "We're receiving indirect communications through neutral traders. Some Council members are expressing regret about the expulsion." Sarah felt a grim satisfaction. Let them regret it. "We offered them partnership, and they chose fear over cooperation." The Federation's growth had not gone unnoticed by the Council. Long-range sensors had detected Council scout ships observing Federation activities from the edges of their territory. The Council was clearly trying to understand what the expelled species were building in the frontier sectors. "They're afraid," Admiral Thompson told the Federation Council. "They expelled us because they thought we were dangerous. Now they're discovering that we're becoming powerful." The proof of that power came during the Battle of Kepler's Gate. A large pirate fleet, equipped with stolen Council technology, had attacked a Federation colony. The pirates had expected to find easy prey, refugee species with limited resources and outdated equipment. Instead, they encountered the full might of Federation military power. Human tactical brilliance, Kyanash warrior fury, Thorian industrial capacity, and Zephyrian energy manipulation had combined to create a devastating defeat for the pirates. The battle was over in less than 6 hours, with minimal Federation casualties. Word of the victory spread throughout the galaxy. The Federation of Free Worlds was not just a collection of exiled species struggling to survive. They were a major power capable of projecting force and protecting their interests. "We've received a formal communication from the Galactic Council," President Santos announced at the next Federation meeting. "They're requesting a diplomatic meeting to discuss mutual concerns and potential cooperation." Sarah laughed. "Now they want to cooperate. After they cast us out, they want to negotiate." "What should our response be?" asked Kyanash, his scaled head tilting in curiosity. President Santos looked around the council chamber at the representatives of 12 different species. "I think we should accept their invitation, but not as supplicants seeking readmission. We go as equals, representing a sovereign power." The meeting was arranged to take place on a neutral world at the edge of Council space. The Federation sent a delegation led by President Santos, Admiral Thompson, and representatives from each member species. The Council delegation was led by High Arbiter Zixthara herself, the same crystalline being who had pronounced humanity's expulsion 2 years earlier. She was accompanied by representatives from the major Council species, many of whom looked distinctly uncomfortable. "President Santos," the High Arbiter began, her crystal form dimmer than Sarah remembered. "We come to discuss the future of our respective regions of space." "High Arbiter," President Santos replied calmly, "we're pleased to meet with you as representatives of the Federation of Free Worlds." The negotiations revealed just how much the balance of power had shifted. The Council was dealing with internal rebellions, economic collapse, and external threats. The Fed asterisk